Australia, Costa Rica, and Wales became the last three nations to qualify for the 2022 Qatar World Cup. 32 teams will participate in the prestigious tournament at the end of the year. All the groups are done and dusted, and now we are here today to discuss about all the groups at a glance. Today I have with me Mr. Sandeep Mishra, our News 9 sports editor, who also went to the 1990 World Cup in Italy to cover the World Cup. So how was your experience back there, Sandeep?
It was a long time back. I mean, like taking me back to an era where I was an intern. So it's been quite a while. But yeah, I mean, if you just look at the experiences of a World Cup, they help you later on as a reporter and all. But the football was honestly not of that standard that you normally see every time. It was a pretty defensive World Cup coming from a lot of teams. Couple of matches were good here and there, but for me it was big because I could see Franco Baresi, I could see Maldini, I could see Baggio, who actually became a big star in '94. So all these guys were like, the ones we grew up with. So in that way, I was in awe. In that way, I was in, I mean, what can you call it? It's a dream come true sometimes when you go for such kind of events like the Olympics and all. So 90 remains embedded for Diego Maradona, remains embedded for the one that we were watching, the Italy semi-final.
Argentina,
I mean, like it remains embedded for Lothar Matthäus, one of the really great German footballers, midfield. So all of these combined, it was a fantastic experience.
Talking about dream come true, Wales have witnessed something similar. They will be going to the World Cup after 64 years now. The Bale free kick, which allowed them to get past Ukraine 1-0 in the playoffs. So Bale was planning to retire if Wales wouldn't have got qualified for the World Cup, and now they are heading towards the World Cup. So going into the World Cup, what do you think about Wales? Can they progress to the final stages?
I think so. I think this is what we were actually discussing even back then, the day Wales went through. And, even on the desk, I always had this feeling that, they might just go into the knockouts. But, when you speak of Gareth Bale, I mean, off and off the bench, he's there, he's not there, he goes to Spurs, comes back to Real Madrid, they win the Champions League. So much happening around this one player. I think he has the luck of the devil, if you can call it.
Yeah.
And if somebody has the luck of the devil, then what happens? Then your team goes through to the knockout. And if you meet not a very strong team, you end up in the semi-finals. So I just have this little thing in my mind that who knows, this is Gareth Bale's World Cup. I don't know, but who knows,
possible.
And, and I think, I don't know if you want to agree with me or not on this, but Wales can beat England.
In the groups, right?
Yeah, of course, they can beat England.
It will be a big fixture.
It's very simple, Hardik. You look at England's through passes through all of the World Cups, except 90, where they really played good football. 66 was a long time back when they won. But you look at the progress they have made through all the World Cups. It's been a very heavy routine stuff for them. They have not ever been up to the mark. When you really recall players who've such big stars in the EPL and elsewhere. And I think that's where it really comes in heavy for them. Gareth has this massive quality of not only lifting himself, but also lifting a team. And if he can do 30% on that 30% extra, I think is going to be really massive for Wales against England. So, I mean, you look at England, Iran, US, Wales. I think USA and Iran are beatable. And then Iran may be champions out here, maybe champions in Asia and all, but they have really made heavy progress in all the World Cups.
Yeah.
Okay, US, I think, is basically setting themselves up for the next one.
Next World Cup,
where they're going to be hosts along with Canada and Mexico. But Wales and England, I think these two will go through, and I still believe Wales might even top.
Yeah, as we were discussing, because sometimes there's problem with England's chemistry,
Yeah.
They don't click together. So we can possibly see Wales at the top of the group. But as we see Iran in this group, as Australia has qualified, now we have 6 nations from Asia who will be playing into the World Cup. So from Group B, we have Iran, Then from Group A, we have the hosts themselves, Qatar.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see how they play against the likes of Senegal and Netherlands.
It's pretty simple here. I think everybody will agree Senegal, Netherlands stars out here.
Yeah.
We'll easily go through Qatar's first World Cup. I don't think anything about hosts really is going to work here too much.
Yeah.
It's not a great team, honestly. And then Senegal and Netherlands are tested. Ecuador.
Senegal won the AFCON.
Yeah. And they got the players to do with it. They got the experience to go with it. Netherlands anyway is a top class team. So for Qatar and Ecuador to even think about something else, I think is virtually an impossibility here. Unless you have some sort of something else happens.
Because it's World Cup after all.
Yeah, but it will be the mother of all shocks if something really happens here. I don't think so.
But what about LVG, Louis van Gaal? He will be guiding the Netherlands in the World Cup.
He's been through enough of coaching by now. So he understands that. His coaching actually will start probably in the knockout stage. After the teams really have gone through. That's where he probably will bring his best. His best is really not needed against Qatar. His best is really not needed against Ecuador. But of course, I think the moment they play Senegal, they'll actually gauge the strength of their own team. They'll gauge where the Dutch can actually reach in this World Cup. Senegal is going to give them massively top-class opposition. And I think his experience combined with the team and what they perform against Senegal is what's going to set them up for the next round.
For the knockout stages.
Absolutely.
As we were discussing about the teams from Asia, we have Saudi Arabia in the Group C. And they will be up against Argentina, Mexico, Poland, Robert Lewandowski's Poland. So what do you think about this group, Sandeep?
The thing out here is that you can easily compare Lewandowski with Gareth Bale, a player who can lift his team. But I'm still doubtful. I still give more marks to Wales in terms of, setting themselves up, having that kind of experience playing out there.
Playing as a unit.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been playing in that region. There is a difference when you play in regions. I think Poland probably gets left out a little bit. But for Mexico and Argentina, it's not going to be too difficult. I really don't see Saudi Arabia really coming through in terms of even a shock victory here. They might have a draw against Poland or probably against Mexico, but Mexico can beat Poland and easily go through as the second
Mexico
team.
also has a very nice striker, Raul Jimenez from Wolves, who might be playing instead of Chicharito.
Well, we discussed Chicharito here, we discussed Hernandez, and I think looking at ages, we can discuss that a little later. But at 34, he's still in his prime. I think he can still go through. And what happens in Mexico, if you really look at the history of Mexican football, a call from the president to the coach and a player can come in. That kind of equation still exists in Mexico. It does exist in most of the countries, which are not really at the top 10, top 20. But Mexico, you can still have Hernandez call up the president of Mexico and say, I want to play. And he does, all he has to do is call up the coach. Because as you rightly said when we were having a discussion on this, it's not because of form. And it's not because he cannot perform. It's because of some other reason that he's been left out of the team.
Right.
But I think eventually he'll probably come in.
That would be interesting. Yeah. In the Group D, we have the reigning champions France, along with Denmark, Australia and Tunisia.
Australia is going to be very interesting, but Tunisia, I really don't think so will go through. Denmark. Yeah.
So they have made their mark in the UEFA Nations League.
Absolutely. So I think France, Denmark, easy picks here. Australia is going to struggle. They have struggled in most of the World Cups. I think it's just that probably that bridge is becoming just too far for them. A good team, but I think they had a good team when the World Cup was in Germany, if I recall rightly.
Okay.
That was a good team that could have gone through, but I think they lost to Germany or somewhere. Memory, I really can't remember that. But that was a good team that they had, who could have made a mark. But even then, they couldn't put everything together.
Okay.
For them, this is their 5th or the 6th World Cup consecutive.
Yeah. Fifth one.
So that itself is a massive achievement.
Yeah.
It's tough getting into a World Cup, leave alone qualifying and going into the knockouts. I think this is an achievement that they should be seriously proud of.
But we can see France and Denmark heading into the knockout stages from
Absolutely.
Group D.
Yeah, completely. It's an easy pick.
Now we have Group E, and in the Group E we have Spain, Costa Rica, Germany and Japan.
Japan, it's just too difficult for them. How do you discount
Spain and
Germany
Germany
at the end of the day? come the World Cup and comes Germany.
We also have Costa Rica who have recently qualified.
Yeah, but it's a country, we again discussed, a country where some of the best goalkeepers have come out from.
Yeah.
But Spain, an easy pick here. They can easily get past Costa Rica, and of course they'll get past Japan. Though you got to understand and also believe that Japan also have one of the big Spanish players out there in the league.
Yeah.
So Japan will have a lot of insight, but I don't think they've really progressed the way South Korea has really progressed in Asia. Japan has, I wouldn't say left behind, but their league is still evolving. They're still going through with a lot of stuff. And I think South Korea off late, like 3 players in Europe probably.
Yeah.
And probably a couple of them in the Middle East and the rest of them in their own domestic league. They have strengthened the league quite a bit. So I think that this one should not be too difficult for them.
Spain and Germany, until unless something weird happens in this group.
Yeah.
Now we have Group F, and in this group we have Belgium, and then we have Canada, who are heading into the World Cup after 36 years, then Croatia and Morocco. What about Canada, Sandeep?
No, Canada is setting, it's Mexico, US and Canada.
Yeah.
This is like an amazing entry into the World Cup where you're going to be in the next World Cup. It's almost like a setup. Okay, these 3 have to qualify so that they can host a much better. Yeah. But I think most of these players in the Canadian team, if you go through, they are the ones who are going to be maturing for the next one.
Right.
So I think this is a great opportunity for Canada to bring a team together, get a
Set
coaching
up a base.
assignment. Yeah, completely. And then play a good World Cup back home because the crowds are going to be there. There's no doubt about that. But Belgium goes through, Croatia goes through, even if Modric is on the other side of 35, but I think he's still a great player.
Yeah, we saw that in the Champions League. We even saw that in the Nations League recently. And also talking about the golden generation of Belgium, can they deliver this time around?
No, too difficult. It's too difficult. I mean, one just kind of still is analyzing why has Belgium, who reached number 1 in FIFA rankings, has not won a big one. But again, you can say that for so many teams.
They just failed to deliver in the later stages of the tournament, semi-finals, quarter-finals. We saw that in the last World Cup, in the UEFA Nations League last year.
They had the team. They really had the team.
Lukaku,
but off late, of course, I mean, off late, they are becoming England. Unable to deliver at the World Cup.
Now we have Group G. Starting with Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland and Cameroon.
Now, Brazil goes through, I think that's one point that you can easily agree. But the rest of the 3, that's going to be
Serbia and Switzerland.
Switzerland is a strong team.
Yeah.
Switzerland is a strong team. And Cameroon comes with something which is called an unknown quality to them. And I think that's where they're going to hurt Serbia. Because if you really look at Cameroon and most of the African countries, they're going to be playing really up. And Serbia might get hurt there because
Switzerland were not so great in the Nations League. So that's where Serbia could get an upper hand in this group.
Absolutely. But Switzerland is still defensively pretty solid as a team.
Yeah.
They are very solid as a team. Cameroon may have deficiency, at the back. But they will be coming up with their midfield and their forward line. And I do believe Group G, they may hurt Serbia. But I still believe Brazil and Serbia look good to go through.
Yeah, right. Moving forward to Group H. As we were discussing, Sandeep, this could be the group of death.
Yeah.
Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay and South Korea.
We really don't have a group of death. So this, in effect, becomes a group of death. Ghana, great team. Uruguay, great team. South Korea, looking at the World Cup, a great team. Portugal, of course, a step ahead of most of these 3.
Yeah.
But, personally, I would love South Korea to go through. I'm a great fan of Son. I mean, there is no
denying that he's a wonderful player.
Yeah. So I think if these guys can score 1 or 2 in the first half against Uruguay and Ghana, it will be very difficult for them to take over. So my pick Portugal, my pick South Korea, even though I know you're going to pick Uruguay over this, but I still believe South Korea has the chance, has the opportunity and has a good, decent team to kind of, have the ambition to go through. I think they are ambitious. And with him getting the golden boot this time at the EPL, I think he also probably feels he's in a good spot. He's in a good space and then he can carry his team into a knockout.
Similar to Robert Lewandowski's Poland or Gareth Bale's Wales.
Absolutely.
Son can lead South Korea to the knockout stages. Now we have teams who are returning to the World Cup after a long time. USA are coming after 8 years. Netherlands are coming after 8 years. Then we have Wales who are coming after 64 years. Then we have Canada who are coming into the World Cup after 36 years. So it's going to be groundbreaking for these countries, specifically Wales, as we discussed earlier, and Canada because they are setting up the base. But also talking about Netherlands, they missed out on the 2018 World Cup, so this is a big opportunity. They also have very good players, Virgil van Dijk, Memphis Depay. Then there's Steven Bergwijn, who doesn't perform for Spurs,
True.
but at Netherlands he's altogether a different player. So can we expect Netherlands to be in the semi-finals or even finals this time around?
No, I don't think so. I think when you come in with a sense of history, though, and they have it on their side. There is no denying that. Even when they didn't qualify, I think they had a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
So it was a surprise that they didn't qualify. And I think for Netherlands to really step up would also mean coaches stepping up, players stepping up, throwing away that history or the baggage that they have had. And how much of their own personal domestic league has really spurred them on to kind of aspire and be ambitious enough to go and get into a semi-final. It can happen, but by the looks of the other teams, it seems a little difficult.
Yeah, right. And USA also coming into the World Cup after 8 years.
I think if you really look back at US's history, Klinsmann was there when he was coach of the US. I think that was a great time for them. It was a fantastic time for US football, right from the junior stages where they were picking up. The MLS has kind of come into its own in a lot of ways.
That will have altogether a different impact on the team.
I think what US Association in a way is looking at, it will be great to have a run up till the knockouts.
Right.
Fantastic. That's going to be a great result. But I think what they also want is that a great result spills over into the MLS, spills over into juniors, spills over into creating a bigger infrastructure, which will then help them, as we've spoken about, the next World Cup.
Yeah.
That's where USA can lift itself and,
at
become
home.
At home, any team is capable of turning over a 1-0 or a 2-1. At home, you are a very different team. But at home, let's discount Qatar this time. Let's not get into that. I mean, that's, as I said, it's going to be mother of all shocks, if Qatar does something extraordinary.
Also, for the next World Cup, there's Canada. Canada will be setting up their base as well, as we were discussing.
Canada still has a decade of real setting up of coaching infrastructure, of player infrastructure. I mean, they rarely even do anything extraordinary in terms of the MLS, which is completely dominated by LA.
You recently watched a match in Canada. How was your experience back there?
You had almost a full house, which was quite surprising because, at the end of the day, it was a weekend, Toronto FC was playing. So there was a nice atmosphere to it. And I think you will see that same atmosphere coming in. Also because the borders are so close, New York to Toronto is not too much. So there will be spillovers from both sides. And a World Cup has a different atmosphere to it and a different environment to it, a different feel to it.
Certainly.
So whatever I saw during watching that Toronto FC game, you could see that there was excitement. You could see that a lot of people were there, a lot of fan support was there. And I think this is where they need to build a complete different structure of Canadian football. Right now, combined with the MLS, they still don't have an identity. The identity is still American. The Canadian identity is somewhere missing. So I think for a country as vast as Canada, I can't even understand why can't they have a Canadian league. Yeah, 2 points here. Canada doesn't have so many cities like America has.
Right.
So I think probably because of that, and that's the reason why Toronto Raptors is part of the NBA and not part of a Canadian basketball league. That's where I think they'd rather be part of the MLS rather than create something for themselves.
Right.
But the next decade, the next World Cup will decide Canada's place in a footballing world. I think that is where it becomes hugely important for them to perform here.
Yeah, it could be a turning point, the next World Cup.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look at, we discussed South Korea when they hosted. They reached the semi-finals. They lost by a goal.
Yeah.
Hiddink was the coach and he took Korea to a very different height. You can't really think of beating Spain and Italy and all that. They did all of that in that World Cup. There were shocks and the way they were playing, they played to their strengths. I think Hiddink was a great coach in that particular phase of his life with South Korea. He became a bigger star than the team. Nobody recognized the team as much as they recognized Hiddink. So, I mean, I still remember there were posters which said Hiding for President for Korea. So that is the kind of stuff you get when you take a team to the semi-finals of a World Cup.
And that to South Korea, it's a big achievement.
Absolutely. So I think this is where Canada's thing will count that way.
In the Group B is quite interesting, Sandeep. We have England, Wales, Iran, USA. There are a lot of headline fixtures in this one. And as we discussed about Wales earlier, but Wales as a team, they will also be up against USA and Iran. Comparatively, it will be easier for them to play against the likes of USA who are in the build-up stages, and Iran, an Asian side who doesn't have a lot of players who have played in Euro.
I think the bigger problem here for Iran is experience. I think it's the inexperienced Iran side when they play against somebody like a Wales who can easily be flexible in virtually 4 quarters of a football match, if you really look at it that way, and not look at it in terms of a first half and a second half. I think Iran has an issue there. Also, Iran over the years has been massively big in Asia, but they haven't carried it forward. 78, I still remember they had a very good team in 78. A lot of those players also came to India and played at that time. But 78, they didn't build on that fast. That Iran could build on a 78 and then go and start throwing players into Europe. The way Africa did, Algeria, Ivory Coast, Ghana, all these countries in Africa started throwing players into Europe at a very junior age. I think that's where Iran missed out. Also because the political situation in Iran is always so combustible that not many countries welcome Iranian players in that sense.
True.
Of course they do, but the politics of a place sometimes defines you and defines your sport and defines your football team in a World Cup.
It affects the sport.
Of course it does. And the fixture could be USA versus Iran. I mean, politically they'll be all charged up. So that's one fixture one can,
And Wales are coming to the World Cup after 64 years after getting past Ukraine at the Cardiff City Stadium. So it was an emotional night for Gareth Bale and his boys back there.
I think half the world wanted Ukraine because of what the situation is. But at the end of the day, you also have to give it to Gareth, you have to give it to Wales, that they knew that they are up against a team that is emotionally wanted in a World Cup. In a political situation like this, Ukraine going into a World Cup is almost like, giving a slap to Russia that, hey, we can also turn things over.
And it could have been the best thing for their people at this point of time.
It could have been a best thing for Ukrainian football, let's put it that way. But all credit to Wales, and you still have to give it to them that, so many years of baggage and they finally come through. And that also in a time when Gareth Bale is there.
So, Gareth Bale's Wales could amaze us, but now let's talk about the favourites, Sandeep. The likes of Germany, Brazil, Argentina, France, and even Spain, England. What can we expect from the favourites? Like in the Nations League, France and England disappointed because of a tiring season, but this would be a similar situation in December because the players will be coming from the leagues and they will be playing the World Cup just 8 days after their last match week in their respective leagues. So can we expect a similar tiring situation for the players in the World Cup?
No, I don't think so. Psychologically, the moment you finish a league, you want to be in holiday spots, not playing another football tournament. Personally, it's stupid to even hold this tournament. I don't know for what. I mean, you need players to take it off. I mean, these guys are playing in and out, whether it's the Champions League. I mean, let's talk only of the UK. It's the EPL, and then you play another 3 more tournaments, which includes the FA, and so many others. Where do you get the time? Plus the friendlies, which are the international breaks that they have to take. I think if you look at the World Cup, there is going to be a build-up towards it. I think the clubs, for all that is said and done, I think the coach of the national team, let's, for example, Southgate, if he's still there till that time, if Gareth is still there, he's going to be speaking to most clubs that, okay, let's put these players not so much into, under pressure
high
in terms
intensity
of performance.
situations. And
and I think that's where most of the clubs in the world are, that's what they're going to do. You picked 4 teams for the semis. I'll also pick Senegal. For me, it's the momentum. It's the run. and what you have won in the last 6 to 8 months, that sometimes really count. Go back into history of the World Cup, see what they have won, and you will see that most of the nations who have gone into the top 4, except for Turkey once, which we were discussing again. If you go back, you will see they have won something that gives them the momentum to go in. I think at this point of time, amongst all teams, Senegal looks pretty well-rounded. They look ambitious, and they also have the players to deliver. So I would love a surprise, honestly. If you can knock off France or Germany or Brazil, a Senegal there would mean a huge amount to African football, a huge amount. I think it will also lift African football to a level where we'll actually have AFCON having broadcasting deals the way Euro has. So let's go for that.
That would be something incredible. So Senegal in the top 4, that's the prediction made by Sandeep. And now we have with Brazil are the favorites because of the kind of players they have in their squad. Neymar, the like of Neymar and Vinicius Jr. in Group G. Then they have Casemiro, Fabinho, they have Ederson.
No, you can go on. I mean, that's a list.
And even Dani Alves could play for
that
them.
list starts from 50s and 60s to 70s and 80s. It's so difficult, except for that 7-1 stupid scoreline against Germany, which just happened one of those days. I mean, you always regret watching that. Bizarre football, to me at least. But Brazil will always be a favorite. It will all be a fan's favorite. It's your country, and when your country goes out, you support Brazil. It's very simple. I mean, we have fights in Calcutta and Dhaka over Argentina and Brazil. So just imagine the kind of fan following. And for those fans, I think Brazil will always be number 1.
Germany recently defeated Italy 5-2 in the UEFA Nations League, and they look like a solid team under Hansi Flick.
They've always been very good at the World Cup. They have always been. You look at 86, you look at 90, you look at 94. Keep on with those. The 90 team wasn't really doing well. Even in 86, they really weren't doing well. They entered the World Cup. Of course, they won in 90. They lost just before that to Argentina in the final. But they are the ones who have gone into the maximum semi-finals. They are the ones who made it to the finals. They are the ones who every team wants to beat. And every team knows that if Germany is there, their chances are reduced by 50% at the minimum. So I think this is the team that will always be on the top of the radar in getting into a final. And that goes for every German national side that comes up.
Right. Their mentality also plays a key role. German players.
I mean, you can look at the German league and the kind of stuff they always have to hear about Bayern Munich winning 9 out of 10 and all of that kind of stuff. And that they are not at the top of the pops even in Europe. But Bayern Munich is a solid team. I mean, most of the good coaches are now coming out of Germany. They're all there. I mean, look at the amount. Of course, the amount of influx of UK players into Germany has greatly reduced from what the 90s used to be. But at the end of the day, they are structured. They're technically extremely sound.
Right.
And they perform at the time that they're required to perform. So I think they will be a massively hard team to beat.
We shall also discuss about the reigning champions, Sandeep. France in the Group D. France, who are along with Denmark, Australia, Tunisia. So France were not that great, similar to England in the UEFA Nations League. But come at the World Cup, they will have their key players back in their squad. So they could make a huge difference again, because they have a team from which they could build like 1 team, 2 team. The squad depth is incredible. So going into the World Cup, what can we expect from the reigning champions?
A semi-final spot for sure, looking at form and team. But let's be honest about one thing. Mbappe, before the PSG contract, was a different player. After the PSG contract, with all this 200 million and thousands of millions or whatever, I mean, you lose count of the numbers and zeros, will be a very different player. He's going to be a very, very different player. But when I say a different player, I don't mean it in the positive sense. I mean there's going to be massive amount of pressure on him to deliver. And that pressure sometimes kills a team. And that pressure sometimes even haunts the other players. And that is what PSG is. Look at the aftermath of the contract. Pochettino is sacked. So those are the kind of stuff that France has to deal with. You know, superstar players, it's very difficult to maintain them. I mean, I can still recall Neymar playing in the last World Cup. He could have easily scored 3 goals, but he kept the ball, and you were wondering what the hell is happening here. But that is superstar status. And I think if he can throw that off and give France a much more team feeling, France will be a solid team.
Benzema could help him up front, who is now 34 years old.
Great player.
And he was incredible in the Champions League in the last season. And with his experience, Benzema could help the young Kylian Mbappe going into the 2022 World Cup. Also talking about Benzema, who is now 34 years old, we also have other players who are similar to his age or above his age, like Luka Modric, Manuel Neuer, possibly Dani Alves.
39.
And Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi. So how will it be like for the fans to witness these stars for the last time at the World Cup?
Yeah, 10 to 14 players, probably the last World Cup. Cavani and all of these guys. Yeah. And I mean, this is almost like a farewell World Cup, for such big stars.
For this generation.
For all the last 8 years that you watched, Neuer, I mean, all these guys are absolutely legends now. I mean, just look at these two faces. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, you won't be seeing them again at all on a World Cup stage. And thank God Portugal qualified.
Yeah.
They were virtually going out. They've come in. But I mean, this is going to be completely terrific in terms of seeing these guys. And I think that's what probably will make Messi play at his best. Because this is one trophy he really needs.
And talking about the World Cup, we can't talk about Italy here, who failed to qualify for the second consecutive World Cup after winning Euro 2020. It was a disaster for the Azuris, who went on to the playoffs. They couldn't qualify in the group stages because Switzerland topped the group. But in the playoffs, they had a chance to get past North Macedonia, and then we would have witnessed Italy and Portugal in the playoff final, which could have been difficult for Portugal, but Italy made it easier for them.
True.
But so, Italy out of the World Cup. Your views on that?
Well, you would have been talking about players who were 37, 38, 39. All of those guys were in Italy.
Yeah.
But I think
Bonucci, Chiellini.
Yeah, but I think you're going to miss seeing not only a team that can really play from the midfield, but a team that can easily defend for 60 minutes in a match. I mean, this is one of those teams, 1-0 up, come back, 60 minutes at the back. You can't have a look in. I just wish they could have done that same thing against Macedonia, which they couldn't. But it was one of those days in Italian football history that's going to be, black marked or red marked or whatever you call it. I mean, they're not going to forget this. And this is a disaster. You rightly use the word. It's a disaster for Italian football because this is the only stage.
Yeah.
And they have performed at the World Cups. They have that mentality.
4 times winners.
Yeah, they have that mentality of going out there. They're like Germany. Come the World Cup, okay, let's play. It's like moment France play a match, all you have to tell Benzema is, this is a Champions League game, not a football World Cup game. And he'll go score a hat-trick. That's the kind of mentality Italy bring in that sense.
Huge blow for the world, because this World Cup we won't be seeing the Italian players at the Qatar 2022 World Cup. On that note, we will end this chat. This was a fun chat, Sandeep.
Thank you
for entertaining us today. We will be back with more interesting videos, insights and facts. Until then, enjoy the beautiful game of football. The transfer window is on. Let's see which players goes to which clubs are approaching the big targets in the coming 2 months. And World Cup is just now 5 months and 5 days after the World Cup is just now 5 months and 5 days away. So the excitement is building up. On that note, thank you so much. Signing off. This is Hardik Agrawal.